How's it going? We are back once again with another career simulation. This one is thanks to Sharpie, who asks for a Brayden Yager career sim, so I am happy to give you that, my friend. Brayden Yager was drafted in the 2023 draft at number 14 by the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I think EA has done him a little bit dirty, so I did change some of his stats. I will show you them right now. So first of all, I made him a 75 overall instead of I think a 72, just so that he can hopefully get into the NHL a little bit earlier. For video sake, I also increased a lot of his stats just a little bit. I find that he's a lot better of a shooter than people give him credit for, man. You know, he has 62 goals in his last 2 seasons in the WHL, which is nothing to scoff at for sure. So I threw his shooting up there a little bit, up to 3-star shooting. I also put his skating up. Definitely has more speed than acceleration, I would say. I'm talking like I'm a real scout, you know, after watching one scouting video, I'm out here thinking that I'm a scout. But no, you know, I just increased it overall so that he could make the NHL hopefully a little bit earlier. But playing for the Moose Jaw Warriors in this year's WHL, hopefully he can get some good stats and some decent growth for the draft. And I will make sure he goes to Pittsburgh. But you guys know how it works to take control of a completely different team in a completely different conference. So I'll be in the Western Conference in this video, and I'll see if I can't get Brayden Yager onto the Pens so we can simulate the rest of his career. Alright, you guys, I've been trying to get Pittsburgh to pick up Brayden Yager for about 25 minutes now, so I hope this is the time. Here it is, with the 7th overall pick in the 2023 draft. The Pittsburgh Penguins select Brayden Yager from the Moose Jaw Warriors. He's a 75 overall still. He scored, what is that, 66 points in 72 games. His stats look the same, but we will simulate to the new season, where hopefully he can grow a little bit, maybe to 77 overall, 78, but I really hope that he does grow because I do think he has top 6 potential. Maybe I should have changed his overall to medium elite, but I don't think that's quite representative of where he is. But either way, a high top 6 forward can grow in the system, so I just hope that he gets the right EA magic and he can be, you know, a middle 6 guy for this Penguins team for a long time to come. Alright, so I have to go to the contract screen to take a look at Brayden Yager, but if we look at him, he's still a 75 overall with high top 6, so none of his attributes changed or anything. He will have one more year in the WHL, and then maybe he can play in the AHL. I'm not quite sure, but definitely in the WHL this year. So I don't know if we'll even be able to take a look at his stats. I think we will be able to, but so these are his stats last year, so let's see if he can improve upon that 66-point season. Okay, so in his second season in the WHL that is mapped by EA, I suppose, he's grown to a 76 overall, so stats growing a little bit, speed up to 88, acceleration 86. Okay, not bad at all. Passing 84, shot accuracy is pretty good. So still 3-star shooting, 3.5-star skating is very good. Still 2.5-star defense, excuse me, but not bad stats at all. 76 overall. I mean, could make the AHL next year if he's eligible. I still don't know if he is, but I do hope that we get some more growth out of him come the off season. Okay, and over the off season, Brayden Yager here sees some pretty decent growth. He's listed now as a depth forward, a 78 overall, and still that high top 6. So he has definitely grown quite a bit here. His speed up to 89, offensive awareness up to 86, discipline 85. His shot power went up, his shot accuracy went up. Defense even went up a little bit. 3-star defense now, 3-star puck skills, 3.5-star senses and skating, as well as shooting, but then 1.5-star physical. Really needs to get that physical game up there. And he's 6'1" as well, so I don't know why EA has it so low, but either way, 78 overall. Oh, I don't know if I showed you guys a stat last year. Last year, he played 64 games and had 67 points. So more points in less games played. So hopefully he can continue that pace and be very good for his Moose Jaw Warriors. Perhaps get called up to the NHL. I'm not sure, but we will find out in his third season, I guess, in the WHL. Well. After another season in the WHL, Brayden Yager's now 20 years old, but he is also a 79 overall. So I really think he can crack the NHL next year, man, if he has a good preseason especially. But look at this. In 64 games, he had 98 points with 47 goals, 51 assists. So he just keeps getting better year after year. I hope that can continue, man. And I hope that Pittsburgh gives him a bit of a chance. What has grown here? Let's take a look. He's a really, really good skater in this universe. That's great to see. His passing went up. His puck control went up. Anything else really big? I think his physical went up. Yeah, 2-star physical now, too. So he's growing everywhere, two-way forward, scoring 47 goals. I mean, that deserves to be looked at in the NHL, man. I think Pittsburgh might do it this year. They might call him up. He is still on his ELC. He has not burned a year of that yet. So I think this year he can play in the AHL. So let's find out if he does or if he makes the NHL roster right off the bat. And here he is after 3 years in the WHL. He finally cracks the NHL in, what is this, 2025? He cracks the NHL playing alongside Eric Howlett and Jordan Greenway. So not the flashiest line mates. I would like to see him up there on that third line instead of Travis Boyd. I don't know why he couldn't be. Playing with Brian Russ would be a lot better. He cracks the fourth line of the NHL. And look at this. Phil Kessel has come home to Pittsburgh. Well, not home, but he's back in Pittsburgh with Crosby and Gensel. Matias Maccelli from Arizona. He was drafted by Arizona. Is an 88 overall in this universe. That's insane. Evgeny Malkin, of course, with Ricardo Raquel. We won't look at the lines this in depth every season, but I like to do it in the first one just to get a feel for it. Chris Letang has dropped to an 82 overall. The defense does not look great, not going to lie. And then goaltending, it's Logan Thompson at his 85 is not bad. Obviously, the Penguins kind of still in that same place they are right now in the current day, era. Although Matias Maccelli at 25 years old, 88 overall is something that they do not have in the current world. A young, amazing player for them. So hopefully Brayden Yager can get up there as well. Maybe play that second line next year, third line next year. But 81 overall playing that fourth line. You love to see it. And I hope he can make an impact on this team, this year. Let's see what he can do. First year in the NHL. Can he win the Calder? Can he move up throughout the lineup? I really hope he can, but let's find out, man. First year in the NHL. And in Brayden Yager's first year in the NHL, the Pittsburgh Penguins end up going 44, 32, and 5, which is good enough to get them in the playoffs, and they are 13th place in the entire NHL. Individually, Brayden Yager here had a decent rookie season, playing in all 82 games, scoring 8 goals and 27 assists for 35 points. He was a -2, but he was also playing in that bottom 6. I think he did jump up a little bit to that third line. He got moved around a little bit. But still in 81 overall, playing on that third line. Only 17 penalty minutes, pretty disciplined first year. Only 125 shots. Like to see him shoot a little bit more, and 6% shooting percentage as well is kind of rough. He was playing some power play time, probably second line power play, 14.5 minutes a night, as you guys saw. And what about his faceoffs? 49% on the faceoffs is not horrible for a rookie. But yeah, a decent rookie season. I don't know if it's good enough for the Calder, but I will definitely let you guys know if it is. But a decent rookie season, and he's got some playoff time he can look forward to as well. So let's see what he does in those playoffs. Oh man, that is so rough for Pens fans and Brayden Yager fans everywhere, man. The Penguins have an incredible run, but just fall short in the Stanley Cup Finals. On their road to the Stanley Cup Finals, though, they beat out the Devils in 7. Then the other team in close to New York, they beat the Rangers in 5, the Panthers in 5 as well in the Eastern Conference Finals, but then get swept out by a very, very stacked Colorado team. So, no shame in making it to the Stanley Cup Finals whatsoever, but you got to be thinking that Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and Chris Letang are kicking themselves that they couldn't win another one for the city of Pittsburgh. And Brayden Yager, let's see how big of a role he played in those playoffs. And look at this. Brayden Yager in 21 games played had 4 goals and 11 assists, which is good for 15 points in 21 games. I mean, compared to his regular season performance, that is like godly. That's so incredible. In 82 games, he only had 35 points, but in like a quarter of the games he had 15 points, half the points. So he was on pace for way more points than he got in his regular season campaign. So hopefully he can carry that into his second year, carry the confidence that he gained in the playoffs, and hopefully we're in for a good sophomore season. Oh my goodness, look at this. Brayden Yager fans, get excited because he's going to be centering Jake Guentzel and Matias Maccelli here. In his second season in the NHL, he grew to an 83 overall, by the way. He's going to be centering these guys, so never got to play on a line with Sidney Crosby. That's very disappointing as Sid leaves in free agency. I checked the retirements to make sure he didn't retire. I would have told you guys if he did. But here's Rasmus Andersson at an 89 overall. Wish he could have grown like that in my Ottawa Senators GM mode, but whatever, that's fine. But yeah, Brayden Yager on that first line. I don't think this is a playoff team. They just don't have the superstars for it. Jake Guentzel, obviously a very, very good player. But I don't know if he can carry, and so is Matias Maccelli at this point in his career. Good Lord. I don't know if they can carry that team all by themselves, though. And goaltending is still Logan Thompson, but Matt Murray comes home as well. So a lot of former Pens coming back. Phil Kessel last year, Matt Murray this year. Brayden Yager's going to do his best with these guys. His stick checking's up to 88. His speed's at 92. His shot's getting better. His offensive awareness, all that stuff. So let's simulate to the end of his second year and find out how he does with this strange-looking Penguins team. And in his second year, unfortunately, the Pittsburgh Penguins miss out on the postseason, having a record of 40, 39, and 3. But the worst part is they don't even get an amazing draft pick. They're going to get probably the 12th overall pick or something like that. So it's a very unfortunate season for the Penguins. However, in 79 games, Brayden Yager scores a career high in goals, assists, and points, I believe, for his all-time point record, the best season of his career. He also has grown to a 87 overall and is now a medium elite. What the heck is this? That's crazy growth out of him. Oh my goodness. So that's insane. That's so wild. Okay, so a great second year promotes massive growth for, this. I don't even know what to say. I'm at a loss for words right now. He only scored 52 points. Like, it's great, but it's not like world altering, but that's enough to get his potential up to medium elite. His stats look great. Look at that slap shot power up at 90. Look at that speed at 96. The offensive awareness at 90 as well. Even the defense has come along, stick checking 92. So what a year for Brayden Yager and growth-wise. So let's see if he can make that 87 mean something and have a great first season or third season with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Okay, and here are the year 3 Pittsburgh Penguins with Jake Guentzel, Brayden Yager, and Matias Maccelli. That first line stays intact. They pick up Anze Kopitar in free agency, I assume. Yes, 1 year, $4 million. But the rest of the team looks pretty stagnant. We do have some growth from Mason Marchment. But other than that, the team looks pretty similar. 91 overall Rasmus Andersson now, which is crazy. And goaltending still Logan Thompson between the pipes. So a very similar team to last year. We just have that medium elite growth from Brayden Yager, who's now an 88 overall with his statistics looking like this. I mean, I know Sharpie's loving this simulation. He said that he wants him to be a stud, and apparently he's growing like that. So congratulations to any Pens fans out there. You do have Brayden Yager at an 88 overall, though your team did kind of fall apart in shambles. No Crosby, no Malkin, no Letang. But either way, I'm not here to criticize the team. I'm just here to watch Brayden Yager's career. And so far, it's a pretty interesting one. Let's see if he can add on to his great second year with an even better third year. And oh, baby, apparently the future is now. The Pittsburgh Penguins in Brayden Yager's third year go 47, 30, and 5, man, to make the playoffs as the 8th best team in the NHL. And look at this, guys. Brayden Yager has a career year once again. He is playing for that contract, so I'm going to be interested to see what he gets, but he has, he plays in all 82 games. He scores 24 goals, which is not amazing, but probably around where he'll be in the real world, I assume, around a 20-goal guy. 48 assists for 72 points, playing 21 and a half minutes per night. I mean, this guy's a horse, dude. He can play all day. Look at his statistics, and now that defense at 4.5 stars, skating at 5 stars, senses at 5 stars, shooting at 4.5, like, he has everything going for him. But look at this. Matthew Phillips also 83 overall, got 78 points this year. No idea why. Crazy simulation out of Brayden Yager, and he's a big part of the reason why these Penguins are in the playoffs. So hopefully he can, perform how he did in his first ever playoffs and get these guys to the Stanley Cup Finals again. That would be pretty crazy, but I would be here for it. I would love to see something like that happen. And in year number 3, in the year 2028, Brayden Yager and the Pittsburgh Penguins are your Stanley Cup champions. The parade has come back to Pittsburgh after 10 years of not being, the Stanley Cup not being in Pittsburgh. It is back. The fans are going crazy. PPG Paints Arena erupted in game number 7. Crazy stuff going on there, man. That's absolutely nuts. And this is such a weird simulation. The weirdest simulation probably I've ever seen in franchise mode. Crosby and Malkin and Letang all leave, and then Pittsburgh's left kind of barren until, Brayden Yager turns into a monster for them. What a crazy simulation so far. But Pittsburgh, their road to the Cup was not easy either. They beat New Jersey in 5 and Philadelphia in 5, fair enough. The Battle of Pennsylvania also, check that out. What a run. Oh my goodness. Then they beat the tough Toronto Maple Leafs in 7, and then, apparently a very, very good San Jose Sharks team in 7 as well. So a grueling Stanley Cup final, but the Pittsburgh Penguins, they win, and let's see if Brayden Yager wins that Conn Smythe maybe. And Brayden Yager, it looks like he got injured a little bit in the playoffs. Makes sense, he's their best player, they're all going to be targeting him, but no, I'm just kidding. Brayden Yager, on the last year of his deal, of his entry-level deal, he scored 16 points in 20 games, which is a pretty dang good. I don't think it's good enough for the Conn Smythe, because look at this. Matthew Phillips, 83 overall playmaker. I've never seen Matthew Phillips simulate like this. This is crazy, dude. I didn't even know who he is. Like, what has he done in the real world? Let's check his stats. Like, he's what, like an AHL player? Yeah, he's an AHL player, bro. Playing in the NHL, scoring 78 points in 82 games. Doesn't make sense to me, but what do I know? Brayden Yager, though, in his 3rd season, wins a Stanley Cup, grows to a 90 overall, and, is definitely a big part of the reason why this team won their cup. So although he probably won't get a Conn Smythe, he doesn't have any hardware except for a Stanley Cup, and that's the one that matters the most. So a great 3rd season from Brayden Yager, and let's get to his 4th season and see what type of bag he gets in his 4th season, because it should be a fairly big one. And here are your year number 4 Pittsburgh Penguins, who picked up some very, very good players in the offseason. Brayden Yager at an 88 overall, still medium elite and still only 23 years old. I mean, this kid really has something special, and I'm still playing with Jake Gensel as he has, for the last 2 years now, but he is also playing with the acquired Cole Caulfield, who signed a $12.435 million deal for the next 7 years. Speaking of contracts, though, Brayden Yager is signed on for Pittsburgh for the next 4 years at almost $7 million here, so he's making a decent amount of money, but only for an 88 overall. That's pretty low. So and a medium elite. So he's definitely going to be looking for a little bit more money in the next 4 years. But either way, this Pittsburgh Penguins team looks pretty dang good. Barrett Hayton here has an 87 overall, and their 3rd line is crazy. Defensively, still Rasmus Anderson running the show here, and everybody else is kind of average. And then goaltending is still Logan Thompson. So they won the Cup last year with probably a worse team overall-wise, so I don't see why they can't do it again. Let's have another run, Brayden, in your 4th NHL season. And here they are, your defending Stanley Cup champions, once again in the playoffs. This time they place 9th in the NHL, going 45, 31, and 6. And that is a season I am talking about, man. In 80 games, so not a full 82-game season, but Brayden Yager scores 35 goals, leading his team in that category, in the goal category. He also gets 47 assists for 82 points in 80 games played. Look at this. This first line just went absolutely crazy on the opposition, being a plus 24, 25, and 27 respectively, which is pretty insane stuff. So a great regular season, the best of his career so far. And, you know, he's definitely earning that $6 million centering that first line, or $7 million almost, centering that first line for the next 3 years after this one. But he's in the playoffs once again, so let's find out what Brayden Yager can do with this amazing team they have. And it's an old friend that eliminates the Pittsburgh Penguins in round number 2. The Penguins beat out Carolina in 4, but then fall to their heated rival, the Washington Capitals, man. Washington and Pittsburgh, a very long story there. Don't need to tell you guys about it. You already know, but Pittsburgh, they don't win the back-to-back cups, but they do still make it out of the first round, which I think many Pittsburgh fans are desperately craving for in the real world. So not going to complain about the season. Let's find out what Brayden Yager did in the playoffs. And yeah, but that's about what I expect from Brayden Yager now in these playoffs. He grew to an 89 overall as well, but he scores 10 points in 9 games. He's always been a playoff performer, and he shows exactly why here. That first line definitely carrying the Pittsburgh Penguins right now, but they do still have some good depth with Barrett Hayton on that third line, scoring point per game as well. They have 4 point per game players in the playoffs, and Brayden Yager just continuing to improve upon his former seasons. So let's see if he can keep the trend up. Every year has been better than the last, so I wonder if that will continue going into year number 5. And you know what, considering this is a Brayden Yager simulation and he never got to play with the man, we might as well pay respects to Sidney Crosby. I'm sure Brayden Yager looked up to him, or currently looks up to him, I guess. You know, had a great career, 1,600 games played, 1,900, almost 2,000 points for Sidney Crosby. Crazy stuff. So don't want it to take up too much time, but just wanted to say that Pittsburgh Penguins legend Sidney Crosby goes out in retirement. Unfortunately, he couldn't play with Brayden Yager when Yager's tearing up the NHL, but I say tearing up, he's point per game. But when Brayden Yager is simulating very well, so that's unfortunate, but Sidney Crosby nonetheless, always a legend, a Pittsburgh legend, and his jersey will definitely be up in the rafters sometime this year. Okay, and here are the year 5 Pittsburgh Penguins. Brayden Yager still on that first line with Jake Guentzel and Cole Caulfield, which I don't see a reason to change it. They've been lights out together. The second line, I have no idea why Barrett Hayton is not on the second line instead of Emil Bemstrom, but either way, second line without Matthew Phillips looks a little bit barren there. Barrett Hayton should definitely be up there, but maybe they're just trying to have more depth or something like that. Matthias Michelli really fell off after his first few seasons with Pittsburgh. Defensively, Rasmus Andersson is slowly dropping, but they do have Jake Wallman in there now. Actually, has he been in Pittsburgh for a while? I think he has. Yeah, he has, for the last 3 years. I recognize the name for sure. And then other than that, looks kind of average. Goaltending is still, no, it's not. It's Dustin Wolf now instead of Logan Thompson, but that's an upgrade. So this Penguins team, I think they can make the playoffs once again. It would be the 3rd time in a row, I believe. So let's try to do that. Brayden Yager, excuse me, still an 89 overall. His stats still look very good. His speed has come a bit back down to earth now that he's 24. Getting those old legs under him, but the puck skills are now 5 stars, as are the senses. Shooting 4.5 and physical 3 stars. So looking for big things out of this first line once again. Hopefully point per game. That would be very nice. And it is crazy how the people simulate, right? Because the created Matvei Michkov that I did, if you guys haven't watched that, check it out. But he barely, I think he scored 1 season. He was point per game, and then Brayden Yager in his 4th career year is point per game. So I don't really know, man. I don't understand it, but Brayden Yager with Cole Caulfield and Jake Guentzel, maybe it's the line mates, no idea. But let's hope he can do it again, because that was pretty crazy. And look at this, guys. The former Stanley Cup champions here, they finished 4th in the entire NHL, going 49, 26, and 7, a very good record. But I swear they were around there last year as well, and they finished like 9th. So maybe the NHL was more even than it was last year, something like that. But 4th in the NHL is very impressive. So let's go check their individual stats and see what Brayden Yager did in his 5th year. And in his 5th year, Brayden Yager scores once again a career high in points. Every year it just improves upon itself. Look at this. First year in the NHL rookie season, okay, 35 points, that's all right. Next year, 52, 72, 82, and now 88, improving every single year. And when your line mate is scoring 100 points, excuse me, 100 goals would be crazy. 100 points, you know, that's the reason why. And that first line, once again, plus 30 this year. So very impressive stuff out of Brayden Yager. Still an 89 overall, but you know, coming up on a new contract year, almost still 2 more years on his contract after this one. Jake Gensel, though, definitely dropped the ball a little bit this year, but either way, Brayden Yager for sure looking for a bag after his contract's up, but he has to focus on the now, and so do we, because we're going to the playoffs. And looking at the playoff tree here, unfortunately, the Pittsburgh Penguins do fall in the first round. They get swept out as well, so not a great playoff performance from them, but at least they can take some solace in the fact that they do lose to the Stanley Cup champions, the Washington Capitals. So a rough postseason, but they were up against very, very difficult competition. And for the first time in his career, really, Brayden Yager is not a point producer in the playoffs. He still is a +1, but not as many points as you would like to see out of your now 91 overall first line center. 1 point in 4 games is still pretty dang rough. But his stats obviously go up as he has now increased his overall to 91. His shooting is now 5 stars, census 5 stars, puck skills, defense all 5 stars, physical 4, and skating 4.5. So let's hope he can keep this overall going into his 6th NHL season, because last time he increased to like a 90 overall, he dropped the next year to an 88. So let's try to keep that 91 overall over the offseason. Train hard, you know, lift some weights, do some conditioning, all that stuff, and let's get to year number 6. And ask and you shall receive. Brayden Yager maintains his 91 overall going into his 6th year in the NHL. He also has 2 more years left on that deal at 6.855, playing alongside the same line mates that he has been the last 2 years. So looking forward to another great season out of Brayden Yager. The rest of the team looks pretty similar. Barrett Hayton up to an 88 overall on that third line. How much is he making? Oh my god, he's making more than Brayden Yager is. He's playing third line time. That's crazy. But other than that, the team looks kind of similar, but also a little bit weak on the right side for sure. And 79 overall on your second line is not ideal. And the defense looks pretty similar to how it has the last few years. And the goaltending, though, we do have Oleg Taratukin, who picked up a massive contract in free agency. I don't know that Pittsburgh's going to have... Sorry about that, boys, but I was just saying, I don't know if Pittsburgh is going to have enough cap space to sign Brayden Yager, because they're probably going to sign Jake Gensel this year, and then Brayden Yager next year. He's going to need his contract, so it's going to be tight here in Pittsburgh, but Brayden Yager has been flourishing for them, so I'd assume they want to keep him on their roster. But 6th season in the NHL, let's find out how he does. And it feels like the Pittsburgh Penguins have Mike's magic stuff or something like that, because they just keep improving season after season. This year, year number 6 of Brayden Yager's contract, or of his time in the NHL, Pittsburgh Penguins go 49, 27, and 6 for an incredibly respectable 104 points and being the 3rd best team in hockey. And Brayden Yager has done it again. He's above point per game once again in his career, but he is injured going into the postseason, so that is something that we will have to keep an eye on. He does score 28 points and 54 assists for 82 points in 79 games. Let's check what his career numbers are. Like, what's his... Oh yeah, that 35 goal performance. Was it last year? I believe it was last year. That was pretty crazy. So, oh no, it was 2 years ago. Sorry. No, it wasn't 2 years ago. It was last year. I just got to sort by the right thing. No, it was 2 years ago. What am I saying? So anyways, 2 years ago was his career high in goals. He's never had a full... that's not true. He's had 2 full 82 games played, like 2 full healthy seasons. But in this one, 82 points in 79 games. Definitely very respectable. Cole Caulfield obviously carrying that first line a little bit with 99 points. But either way, Brayden Yager, a big part of the reason why this team does so well. Their plus minus has actually dropped off a little bit, only +10 this year, but it's still very, very good. Perhaps it's because Jake Gensel is nowhere to be seen in the points category. Oh, there he is down there at 44 points. So Brayden Yager has some work to do in the postseason, excuse me, but he is injured. So I wonder if the 3rd placed Pittsburgh Penguins will make it past the first round, because they do have some injuries that they have to contend with. But let's find out. I'll simulate, and you guys, it'll be like no time for you guys, but for me, it won't be that long either. Well, I'll just see you guys there. And the Washington-Pittsburgh rivalry is back once again. The Pittsburgh Penguins this time losing to Washington. I feel like they've lost 2 out of 3 times they've played them in this video so far, but they lose to Washington once again, and then Washington loses to Ottawa, who loses to San Jose, who wins the cup. So not a bad season by any means by Pittsburgh. Losing out in the second round is nothing, and to be ashamed of whatsoever, but losing to Washington again, they're probably pretty angry at that. But let's find out what Brayden Yager did in the playoffs. And this is absolutely legendary stuff out of Brayden Yager. In only 6 games played, he goes 2 points per game, scoring 11 assists, well, almost 2 points per game, scoring 11 assists for 11 points in 6 games. No goals, but why do you need that when you have Cole Caulfield on your line? Just give him the puck and he's going to score, right? So an incredible postseason out of Brayden Yager, and this is a postseason pace that we've come to expect out of Brayden Yager. Maybe not 2 points per game, but look at this. He's always been very, very good in the postseason in his career. Point per game here, 2 points per game here, and then almost point per game. And he was even a rookie in his first year. So he definitely is a playoff performer, and he proves it once again here. He also grew to a high elite. Look at that potential, high elite potential now. Unfortunately, he dropped to a 90 overall, and he probably won't grow too much more because he is 26 years old, and that's basically when EA caps off your growth. You can no longer grow after you're 26, according to EA. So we'll see how much he grows. We'll see what his 7th season looks like. I think this was his 6th season. Yes, it was. So I will see you guys at the start of his 7th season, where he will get a new contract. He'll get a new contract after that season. So we'll play out his 7th season and then see what type of contract he gets later on. So year 7 of Brayden Yager's NHL career, and it is also his contract year. He's on a line now with Cole Caulfield and Matias Maccelli. So Jake Guentzel leaves or retires. I didn't look at the retirements this year. He might have retired, actually. But Jake Guentzel is no longer on the team. Seth Jarvis on that second line once again. Also Barrett Hayton still, being trapped on the third line for some reason. But the team looks pretty similar to how, it looks basically the exact same to how it did last year, with some small adjustments. Oh my gosh, Oleg Taratukin. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm so sorry. Anyways, I'm sorry. My ignorance is showing. Cover up. My ignorance is showing. But here we go. He's a medium elite goalie who was an 87 overall at the start of last season, but this year 85. So did drop in overall. Hopefully that won't be too big of a problem for the first line, who will carry them once again to a playoff position, I hope. Let's see. Brayden Yager. Let's see what you can do in your 7th year, and it's a contract year, so we know he's going to be motivated to perform very well. Okay, in Brayden Yager's contract year now, the Penguins, they're not the 3rd best team in the NHL this year, but they are the 8th, going 44, 31, and 7. Very respectable indeed. And I wonder what Brayden Yager did in his contract year. And in his 7th season in the NHL, Brayden Yager scores 96 points in all 82 games played. And for everybody in the comments who would have been saying, oh, well, it's only because he's on a line with Cole Caulfield that he's getting it done, check this out. Caulfield only plays 58 games, so he was doing it for 24 games without Cole Caulfield. He scores 96 points, which is absolutely legendary stuff out of the young Brayden Yager. 91 overall. Look at his stats. Eat them up, baby. I will check the entire league, see if he's up there in points, assists maybe. I'll check the trophies definitely this year, and we will find out whether he gets any hardware at the end of the season. But he has to focus on the postseason right now, get this team past that second round into the Eastern Conference Finals, hopefully, and maybe a Stanley Cup. And unfortunately for Penguins fans everywhere, they once again fall in the second round, this time in the Battle of Pennsylvania, to their rivals, the Philadelphia Flyers. So a rough playoff performance from them. Making the second round is not bad, but they do want to see that next step now. We've made the second round 2 years in a row, 3 years in a row. We've been out in the second round, so let's try to make that next step into the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe the Stanley Cup, right? That's what they're thinking, but you also can't complain about a second round. You're the top 8 teams in hockey, right? So you can't complain, but you do want to see a little bit more. Just Game 7 is so rough to lose, though. So either way, let's find out what Brayden Yager did in these playoffs. And once again in the playoffs, Brayden Yager shows up to play. He plays all 12 games, and he scores 9 points for the club. Not point per game, but definitely nothing to complain about. 9 points in 12 games is very, very steady and very good. As a 92 overall, though, we're going to look to see what he can do. he's going to get a new contract as well. So I wonder if he's going to stay with Pittsburgh. I think they do still have his, actually, I don't know if they have his RFA rights, but I think, you know, we'll find out if he stays with Pittsburgh or if he goes somewhere else to try to win another Stanley Cup. And in his 8th season here, Brayden Yager decides to split from the Pittsburgh Penguins and move out to the west to the Vegas Golden Knights, where he centers the 89 overall medium elite 2nd overall pick in 2025. So that's a very strong two-way presence up here, as well as Elias Lindholm. So a very, very good two-way forward line. The second line of Jack Eichel, Nolan Patrick, who grew very well in this, and Andrew Crystal. Third line of Nikolai Goloviev and Joshua Bauer and Timo Santala. Luke Kunin down here, Nathan Goucher, and Fraser Minton. So some generated prospects on that third line. Defensively now, Sam Dickinson with Sean Durzi, Matthew Robertson with Theodore Graff, and Maxime Gagner with Travis Sanheim. So average defense, maybe a little bit lower, and then Joel Blomqvist as goaltender. So they're really going to need a lot out of that first line and second line to really carry them to the playoffs. I could see it happening, but it's not as convincing as when Pittsburgh did it. But either way, we're here for his 8th season, so let's find out what he can do in it and hope that they can make the playoffs. Oh boy, for only the 2nd time in his entire career, Brayden Yager misses out on the playoffs. This time it's with the Vegas Golden Knights as they go 30, 44, and 8. Yikes. And with his new team, he drops from being point per game as well. So less production out of him and less production out of the team. Oh, I didn't even show you what type of money. Holy jeez Louise, man. Brayden Yager is making $15.9 million for the next 7 years. That is crazy money. Oh my goodness. I forgot to show you guys at the start of this new year. And my reaction there says it all, man. That is an insane amount of money to be paying somebody. So Brayden Yager getting paid $16 million, you gotta be point per game, bro. You have to be. But either way, he's not this year. So let's get to his next year and see if the team can be a little bit better. But here is the benefit to being one of the worst teams in the NHL, is that you have the chance to get the 1st overall pick, and that's exactly what the Vegas Golden Knights have. So let's find out who they select 1st overall, and it's it's a medium franchise power forward with 5-star shooting. That would be, oh my goodness, Brayden Yager is going to eat up with Tony Potter. Tony Potter? That's almost Harry Potter. Oh my god, that's crazy. Anyways, Brayden Yager with Tony Potter, that's the future for Vegas, and you know, you got to be jumping for joy if you're a Vegas fan, I guess. You just got a medium franchise overall power forward, 84 overall. Like, this guy's ready to play on the first line in the NHL, so let's see if he does. Let's find out what Brayden Yager can do with a guy like this on his first line, and let's just get to year number 8, I think. Year 9 of Brayden Yager's career, and he is indeed centering Tony Potter for his rookie season. So they also have Mathieu Saint-Denis here, who was the 2nd overall pick in 2025. I believe he was on the team last year, but I don't quite remember. Nolan Patrick as well. Like, this team does not look horrible, but it also doesn't look amazing or anything like that. Goaltending, we have 83 overall Pasi Vananen or something like that. Okay, so interesting stuff here. Brayden Yager definitely going to be their main point producer, as well as Tony Potter. So with a big load on his shoulders, he also dropped to a 90 overall, by the way. With a big load on his shoulders, though, let's see if Brayden Yager can produce for the Vegas Golden Knights in his 9th season. And for the first time in his career, Brayden Yager misses out on the playoffs for consecutive years now. Vegas does go 41, 34, and 7, but that just is not enough to get them into the playoffs. They need to be, you know, getting up more in the mid 40 wins to be a guaranteed playoff team, and this just wasn't enough. And speaking of things that are just not enough, Brayden Yager in his 9th season here only scores 60 points in 78 games. He's definitely being outclassed even by the rookie Tony Potter, who has now grown to a 90 overall medium franchise franchise player who scored 65 points in his rookie season. So Brayden Yager definitely needs to step it up if he wants to continue to be this team's first line center, making $16 million almost for the next 5 years. We're gonna need to see some better numbers. Where are those Pittsburgh numbers when you need them, Brayden? Let's get back to the Pittsburgh form, but I'll see you guys in year 10. All right, in his 10th year, the Vegas Golden Knights look pretty similar. A little bit of changes here, but look fairly similar to how they did last year for his 9th year. Tony Potter, though, at a 90 overall, hopefully can help out Brayden Yager a little bit more. Defense looks kind of lackluster still, and goaltending an 84 overall Victor Frolov now. So with a somewhat similar team behind him, let's see if Brayden Yager can find his form that he had back in Pittsburgh and score maybe point per game, maybe 70 points again like he did 2 years ago. So let's find out in Brayden Yager's 10th season. And that is more like it. After 2 years of missing out on the postseason, excuse me, Vegas go 51, 25, and 6, which is more than enough to get them in the postseason. They finish as the 4th best team in the NHL as well. But sadly, Brayden Yager's season was cut short due to injury. He only plays 58 games out of 82, but he had 56 points in them, so you know that he was definitely helping out Tony Potter here and was definitely helped by him as well. So an unfortunate end to Brayden Yager's 10th season, but we're going to hope that he can stay healthy for the rest of his career. This is the first time he's really been injured for a while. The first time that he's missed more than like 4 games or something like that. So an unfortunate end to his season, and he's still injured, so he won't be starting the playoffs. So hopefully he can get better before the playoffs end and help his team maybe win a Stanley Cup. And as I'm editing this, I realized that I forgot to look at the playoff tree and the playoff points from Brayden Yager from this year. So I do just want to note that that's my bad. I think it's just because I recorded all of this in a day and a half, let's say. So I don't know, I just forgot for some reason, maybe fatigue or something like that. I have no idea. No excuses for it, but I do want to say Vegas did not win the Stanley Cup. They went out in the first round to Edmonton, and Edmonton lost to St. Louis, who eventually won the Stanley Cup. So another first round exit for Brayden Yager and the Vegas Golden Knights. But sorry for that disruption, and sorry for not being able to show you those stats. But let's get back to the video and let's get into Brayden Yager's 11th season. And at the start of his 11th season in the NHL, Brayden Yager is once again a 91 overall, still centering Tony Potter as he will for most of his career probably, and Kirill Marchenko on his left. They just got to find another left winger to place alongside of Brayden Yager, but for right now, Tony Potter will have to do. Defensively still looks fairly poor, and goaltending, we still have an 85 overall between the pipes. So could be a playoff team. I could definitely see them being a playoff team, but their wings are a little bit weak, and then their depth is a little weak as well. So let's hope that Brayden Yager and Tony Potter together are enough to get them across the finish line. And here we are once again, the end of year number 11, and Vegas end up 5th in the NHL, finishing 47, 28, and 7. And that is what I am talking about from Brayden Yager. He has once again come back to above a point per game, 84 points in 79 games played with 60 assists. So a fantastic performance, and it helps that he's alongside of Tony Potter for sure. But look at that, even has way more points than Tony Potter in the same amount of games played. So he's definitely creating for himself as well, but it helps to be able to pass to somebody like Potter here. So great job from Brayden Yager. Let's see if he can continue this momentum into the postseason. Oh man, and it's the first time that Brayden Yager makes it past the second round in quite some time, but he falls short in the Western Conference, as do the Vegas Golden Knights. Their road to the Western Conference was not an easy one, beating out Nashville in 6 and Dallas in 6, but then falling to the Winnipeg Jets in 4, and then the Winnipeg Jets fall to Carolina in 5. So a rough postseason, a very, very successful season overall, but a tough way to go out for sure. But despite the rough way to end the postseason, Brayden Yager scores 18 points in 16 games, as he always does in the playoffs. He always scores a big time in playoff time. He is a playoff performer, And going into his 12th season, I'm not sure what this team needs to get better. Maybe some more defense or maybe a goalie. But either way, Brayden Yager will always be here, and he will be a good point producer for them. Here we are once again, year number 12. Brayden Yager still with Tony Potter. Looks like Nikolai Galiev is back here on the left wing. Other than that, team looks okay. 76 overall on your third line's not ideal. 77s on your fourth line's not ideal either. Colton Dach is here. Defensively still looks pretty weak. Is that Jay Eichel? Oh my goodness, Jesus Eichel on the third pairing defensively for Vegas. That's kind of funny. And then goalies is, oh no, what happened to this team? A 71 overall goaltender. That's so weird. What happened? I don't understand. I don't know how they're going to make the playoffs with this kind of a team, but I guess we're going to find out. And in Brayden Yager's 12th year, as predicted, Vegas does barely miss out on the playoffs here, going 43, 35, and 4, which is not quite enough to get them a playoff spot. But despite their poor performance, here is Brayden Yager scoring 91 points in 82 games. A fantastic year from Brayden Yager. Is it actually a career year? No, 96 with Pittsburgh, right? Of course, the year he went off with Cole Caulfield, I remember that. And Tony Potter here for 78 as well. So Brayden Yager has found himself. It took him a few years, you know. It took him two years to find his groove again, but once he did, man, 84 points and 91 points in back-to-back seasons. It's incredible out of Brayden Yager. He was drafted 7th overall in 2023 as a high top 6. He turned his potential into medium elite and high elite even at one point, and he has run away with his career, man. Great career so far. We still have a few more years to go though, but at 32, he probably wants to chase a Stanley Cup. Year number 13, and the Vegas Golden Knights have a bit of reinforcements coming in here. Brayden Yager centering that top line as he has his entire career, as well as Tony Potter here. Then Kirill Marchenko, so the same first line basically, but on the second line we have Ladislav Zitnik, who is a center grinder, medium or exact elite, 30 years old, drafted 4th overall by the New Jersey Devils. I don't know why he's not playing in the center, but Cristiano Ripien is here instead, 15th overall pick. So, and then 86 overall and Nikolai Galiev, who should be on that first line with Yager and Potter as he was last year, but the coach decides not to do that. Defensively now, we have Xavier Farmer, who was a 2nd round pick actually, but with a lot of X factors, hopefully can help out. And goaltending, we finally have goaltending here in Vegas, 89 overall, Kalle Nordgren. So let's see what this team can do. It looks a lot better than last year, so hopefully they can get over the hump. And look at this, ladies and gentlemen, the Vegas Golden Knights in 2038 win the President's Trophy, going 54, 19, and 9. An incredible year for Vegas, and an even better year for Brayden Yager as he scores a career high in points and assists, scoring 82 assists in 82 games with 22 goals, which is good for 104 points, which is by far a career high. The numbers he's been putting up these last few years have been absolutely crazy, man. Plus 36 with Tony Potter on that line as well. So an incredible year from him. I don't know what to say. Brayden Yager has been a beast these past few years, and hopefully they can carry this into the playoffs. They're the best team in the NHL, and let's hope they can be the best team in the playoffs as well. And it is heartbreak for the Vegas Golden Knights. They are the President's Trophy winners, but the President's Trophy curse is alive and real with them. So they beat out Minnesota in 7, but then lose in round 2 to the eventual Stanley Cup champions. It seems like a bit of a theme in Brayden Yager's career is being beat out by Stanley Cup champions. Happened in Pittsburgh when they lost to Washington, and maybe another time, but I can't quite remember. So Brayden Yager definitely lost at least twice to the eventual Stanley Cup champions, which is so unfortunate. But once again, this man can be counted on in the playoffs. In 13 games, he scores 15 points, centering that top line, obviously, with Tony Potter, who went off in the playoffs as well. So some good point production out of them despite being beaten out in the second round. And here we go. This is a first from Brayden Yager's career. He wins the Lady Byng Memorial Trophy in 2038. He is your recipient of the Lady Byng, which is awarded to the player judged to have exhibited the best sportsmanship and gentlemanly conduct combined with a high standard of playing ability. So scoring 100 points and being the great guy that he is gets him the Lady Byng Trophy. Okay, so here are your year 14 Vegas Golden Knights with Brayden Yager still on that top pairing. They look very much the same. We still have Ladislav Zitnik here not centering the first line despite his zone ability of Quick Star, but Tony Potter did grow to 96 overall. Everybody else looks kind of similar, so it looks like the President's Trophy winners of last year are just deciding, let's just run it back, same goaltending as well. And so, we're going to see if Brayden Yager and the Las Vegas Golden Knights can make another run in the playoffs. And for the second time in as many years, the Vegas Golden Knights have won the President's Trophy. That means that Yager, I believe, is a two-time President's Trophy winner, a one-time Stanley Cup winner, and a one-time Lady Byng winner, Vegas goes 49, 25, and 8, which is good enough to be the best team in hockey. And looking at the individual stats, I can definitely see why. Something I forgot to mention when we were looking at the lines, though, is that this is Brayden Yager's last year on his deal, and he played himself to a big contract coming up this offseason, I believe, with 96 points in 82 games, a 67 assists campaign. I wonder what his most assists in a season is. Probably last year, right, when he scored 82 assists. Yeah, 82 assists. This is his fourth best assist total, so definitely starting to find his groove here in Las Vegas. I wonder if he will return if they make a deep enough playoff run, or if he will decide to go chase a cup ring. And once again, Vegas has a slightly disappointing playoff run. The President's Trophy curse is real for these guys. They lose to the Chicago Blackhawks in round 1 in 7 games. But just like always, Brayden Yager does indeed show up in the playoffs, scoring 6 points in 7 games, which is a very, very good point production out of the 34-year-old. But now it's all about where he will sign in the offseason. Will he remain with Vegas, or will he go chase a ring with somebody else? And in Brayden Yager's 15th year in the NHL, he decides to re-sign with the Vegas Golden Knights. He's here alongside a very similar team to last year, with Tony Potter on his right, Cristiano Ripien on his left. Zitnik is still not playing the center position. This guy Jody Emery, who was a 2035 first overall pick, is now in the lineup. He's a center. Okay, fair enough. Rohrer, who was Yager's line mate last year, is on that second line. Defensively looks a little bit better than last year, I have to say. And then goaltending wise, we still have Norgren. So the President's Trophy winners have once again remained pretty similar. Maybe some changes in the bottom 6 that I'm not really noticing. I think Carl Oshie has been here. Same with Shane Ferraro. But Brayden Yager and the Las Vegas Golden Knights are going to run it back one more time to try to win a third consecutive President's Trophy. And here we are, the end of year 15, and the Las Vegas Golden Knights finish 4th place in the NHL, which I think is good for them. I think being at the top has skewed their minds. They think they're the best in the world, and that's why they've been losing. So I think a little bit of change of scenery. If you can't win as the President's Trophy winners, what's the point of winning the President's Trophy? And nobody cares about the President's Trophy winners at the end of the day. Is anybody really going to care about the Boston Bruins of last year? No, I don't think so. So Vegas finishes 4th place, and they go 46, 27, and 9. An incredible record, and obviously good enough to get them 4th place in the NHL. So let's see what type of role Brayden Yager had in it. Oh man, and Brayden Yager in his old age got injured this year, missing out on 23 games in the regular season. He played 59 games, which was good enough for 17 goals, 36 assists for 53 points, but maybe that is the reason why this team doesn't win the President's Trophy. Brayden Yager missed 23 games. That's a really, really big loss for a considerable amount of time, and it hurt other production from the top line as well. We don't have Tony Potter scoring 100 points anymore. We don't have Ripien scoring 85 points or something crazy like that anymore. So With Brayden Yager injured, the whole team's production suffered, but he is healthy for the playoffs. Also, I forgot to show you guys, but he signed a 2-year deal at $10.69 million. So this will be the first year of his deal, obviously, and then year number 2. So the 16th year of his career will be his last season with the Vegas Golden Knights, unless he decides to re-sign once again. Dang, and what I thought could have been a good run for the Vegas Golden Knights ends up being another second round exit, this time to the Edmonton Oilers, who go on to win the Stanley Cup in 7 games. Once again, however, Brayden Yager plays all 13 games, and he shows that he can still get it done at 35 years old. He has dropped to an 86 overall, however. I haven't been showing you his individual stats, as he's just been rolling through these seasons. He's had amazing passing, amazing shooting, and things like that have all been like 5 stars, but now that he's regressing a little bit, we can take a look at these individual stats a bit closer to see what falls off as he ages. But another second round exit for Brayden Yager. He's not going to be too happy about that. He hasn't won a Stanley Cup since his like 2nd or 3rd year in the NHL. Let's take a look. When was it? I don't remember exactly, but he hasn't won a Stanley Cup in a very, very long time. Since it was either one, it was the 2nd year, because the 1st year, remember, they lost. Did they lose in the 1st year, or did they win? I don't remember. I think it was the 2nd year, but either way, or his 2nd year in the playoffs, I should say. I think it's his 3rd year in total. But either way, Brayden Yager in the playoffs has always been a point producer, and let's see if maybe Vegas needs they need somebody else, another 90-something plus. Also, Tony Potter on a $13.335 million deal, which is actually not bad for a 95 overall medium franchise player. But let's see what the moves in the offseason Vegas makes to make this team a even more better contender. All right, and basically for the 2nd time in his 16-year NHL career, Brayden Yager does not find himself on that first line. He's centering a 2nd line with Shane Ferraro as an 81 overall and Matt Yzerman as an 81 overall as well. So Brayden Yager dropped to an 84 overall. He now has bottom 6 potential. It means he is going to start dropping like a truck if he does not get good stat production. A first line of Tony Potter with Jody Emery and Cristiano Ripien. I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to get this team another President's Trophy, but I think playoffs is definitely doable. Ladislav Zitnik is that 3rd line center as a grinder, so love to see that. Defense looks, maybe looks a little bit better, although 75 on your 2nd line is not ideal, but Jyrki Hakkinen here, a good little player for them. 7 years, $15 million for an 86 overall. Are you kidding me, EA? What the heck is that? And then goaltending, we still have Nordgren. So still a good team, but with Brayden Yager regressing, I wonder how they will perform in his 16th season. And in year 16, Vegas once again shows their dominance over the league, getting 50 wins, only 24 losses, and 8 overtime losses, which is good to put them at 3rd place in the NHL. And yeah, in his older age here, Brayden Yager plays all 82 games, which is a great improvement over last year, but only 62 points in those 82 games, so definitely dropping down a little bit, but still is on a very, very good team and can still make noise in the playoffs. His overall also drops to an 80 overall with that exact bottom 6, so this could be his last ride, not only with the Vegas Golden Knights, but in the NHL. Let's see if he can make it a good one. And in what could be Brayden Yager's final year in the NHL, the Las Vegas Golden Knights lose in the 1st round of the playoffs once again, this time in 7 games. So although they've been losing in the playoffs very frequently, they've always been close series, 7-game series, 6-game series, things like that. They haven't really been swept to my memory. I can't remember exactly, like back 10 years, but I'm pretty sure they haven't been swept very often in his Vegas career, at least. I know in Pittsburgh they lost in like 2 and 5 to like the Washington Capitals, but here in Vegas they've put up a fight every year and they've shown their heart. And the 36-year-old does it again, scoring 5 points in 7 games, keeping his 80 overall and playing 20 minutes a night out there. Even though he is 36, he still is out there playing big time minutes, but unfortunately it's just not quite enough. With his contract expiring, I wouldn't be surprised if he decides to call it a career. Look at these individual stats, man. Pretty dang good for a 36-year-old, let's say that. So his overall dropped like 6 overall a year from now. So let's see if he re-signs with Vegas, but I will definitely be taking a look at those retirement screens this year. It is Brayden Yager's 17th year in the NHL, and he is in Vancouver. He signed a 2-year deal at $4.7 million as a 78 overall with AHL top 6 potential. So he's looking to play another 2 years, it seems like. He's being centered by the 36-year-old Zachary Benson. These two both 2023 prospects. Zachary Benson drafted 6th overall, Brayden Yager drafted 7th. So a 2023 draft class link up here. We also have a good first line of Sergei Glebov, Jordan Gavin, and Rick Prust. They're all very, very good players, all high draft picks. 2nd overall pick, 7th overall pick, and 3rd overall pick all find themselves in Vancouver, so that's pretty interesting. On defense, defense is kind of low overall, but they have some X factors here. Okay, so it's a bit of an older team for sure. And then goaltending, an 85 and an 84. That's pretty good, actually. So let's see what Brayden Yager can do, in his 17th year in the NHL. And for the first time in quite some time, a very, very long time, Brayden Yager misses the playoffs altogether, being 27th overall in the NHL, going 36, 39, and 7. And in the 81 games that he played, we definitely saw his age creep through a little bit here, scoring only 42 points in 81 games, playing 18 minutes a night still, though, as a 78 overall. His potential is still exact AHL top 6, so I would not be surprised whatsoever if this was the last time we saw Brayden Yager in the NHL, man. It's been an incredible career so far. Not to be tainted by this past season, I will say that. Just because he misses the playoffs in what could be his last season doesn't mean he's had a bad career whatsoever. He has a Stanley Cup. He has at least 2 President's trophies. He has a Lady Byng trophy, so this man has been putting in the work for 17 years. He deserves some respect, and let's see if he retires. I'm rooting for him to stay on board, but with another year in Vancouver, I don't know if it's even worth it, man. Well, we've come to another end of a career. It's a 17-year NHL career, but he's been in the simulation for 20 years, I think, so an incredible career out of Brayden Yager. He was drafted 7th overall by the Pittsburgh Penguins, who took a chance on him. A lot of people had this guy being a middle 6 player, playing that 2nd or 3rd line for his whole career, but he burst out of that when he was given a chance in Pittsburgh, playing on that first line with Jay Gensel and Cole Caulfield for a very long time, and then moving to Vegas, where he got to play with a franchise level player in Tony Potter. He put up his first 100-point season in Vegas and made many postseasons. He has a Lady Byng trophy in the showcase, as well as 2 President's trophies and a Stanley Cup with the Pittsburgh Penguins. All in all, an incredible career, and now it's time to take a look at his all-time stats. So he plays for 3 teams in his NHL career. He has a game played total of 1,327 with 378 goals for not a very big goal scorer in his career, but 849 assists, which is good for 1,227 points. He's also a career plus minus, being a plus of 196. His penalty minutes are 341 in his entire career, so a very disciplined player over his career. Only 3,206 shots, so about 2 or 3 shots a game, roughly. Looking at his shooting percentage, 11.8% is very, very respectable. Also, 57 game winning goals, which is good for about 1/6 of his total goals. 59 power play goals and 240 power play points. So a decent power play producer as well. He also played some shorthanded minutes as he was an incredible two-way forward his entire career. Never won a Selke trophy, which I was a bit surprised about, but still a great two-way player, scoring 21 power play points, or sorry, shorthanded points with 9 shorthanded goals. He also averaged 20 minutes and 51 seconds on ice per game. Going back to when he was 34, he was still playing 21 minutes a game, you know, like he was a horse out there, an absolute wagon, and he played over 27,000 minutes in his career. Face-off percentage was a career 54%, which is very respectable in the NHL, through 951 hits as well. So that physical category, which was, you know, very highly criticized when he came into the NHL. His hits definitely show that he improved upon his throughout his career at throwing the body. He had 316 blocks with a career takeaways of giveaway percentage, which is very in his favor. He had 1,331 takeaways to 796 giveaways. He's a very responsible player back there, one to be trusted. Looking at his consistency, he played as many as 82 games in many years, it looks like, you know, never missing out more than, what is it, 24 games in Vegas. He had a few rough years in Vegas. This is obviously the WHL, so it does not count towards his production, but for most of his career he only missed 4 games at most, you know, most of that career being between 82 games played and 78. His career goal scored was with Pittsburgh in that great 82-point campaign. He scored 35 goals in that year. The most ever assists he got was with Tony Potter on his right, with 82 assists in that year, which was incredible. And the lowest assist total was his last year with Vancouver. Looking at his points, he was always good for between 35 and 104, but throughout his career, he was known as an above point per game player for the most part here. Many games above point per game. Unfortunately, his career average is less than 1 point per game, but he was very close to meeting that point per game mark. So now you guys know what we do. We always take a look at where this person ranks in the all-time leaders of the current day NHL. So of course, Sidney Crosby has retired in this universe, and he might have 1,700 points. He might have 2,000 points. Same thing with Connor McDavid, right? But I can't keep track of all those numbers. It's just simply not possible. So we will look at how he compares to current all-time leaders. So his 1,327 games is good enough to put him 61st of all time, 1 spot ahead of Guy Carbonneau and a spot below Ray Whitney. 378 goals is enough to put him at 126th place all time, 1 spot above Milan Hajduk and 1 spot below Claude Lemieux. His 849 assists, however, is good enough to put him at 27th all-time, so definitely known more as an assist player. So 27th all-time, ahead of Henrik Sedin and below Bobby Clarke. His career total points of 1,227 points is good enough to put him 45th all-time in point leaders, above John Belvo and below Evgeny Malkin, so in some pretty good company there. And all in all, he was known as a very disciplined, very good defensive player who can be trusted on both sides of the ice and get you an 100-point season if he's playing with a franchise player. You know, his stats may be bumped up a little bit by the caliber of players he was playing with. You know, in Pittsburgh playing with Cole Caulfield, Jake Gensel, in Vegas playing with Tony Potter, but even when those guys were injured, he was still able to produce points on his own. So speaking of being able to be trusted in the playoffs when it matters most, he had 128 games played with 33 goals, 82 assists for 115 points. Incredibly respectable numbers here. He was always a playoff performer, winning a Stanley Cup in his career with, I think it was with Pittsburgh. He also, you know, was above point per game many times in his career. Look at the scoring, 11 points in 6 games. This was the year when he got injured in the regular season. He only played like 50-something games in the regular season, comes back and, you know, does very well in the playoffs, man. So a player that can be trusted on both sides of the ice. He can get you a point per game, point per game product in any given year, and he finishes his career at 37 years old. So that was the career simulation of Brayden Yager, everybody. If you did like it, feel free to give it a like. Comment who you want me to do next down below. I've been getting some suggestions. So I do have another one in mind that I'm going to be doing, but let me know, do you want to see another top prospect, or do you want to see kind of a middle of the pack guy like Brayden Yager? You know, they can surprise you. I think Brayden Yager had a very, very respectable career. You know, he was drafted 14th, I think, in the real world by Pittsburgh, but in this simulation drafted 7th, and you know, he had to live up to that very high projection of him, you know, and he even surpassed it. So do you want to see more like middle of the pack stories like that, or do you want to see me do some more of the big guys? I can do like Matthew Beniers, I can do Alexei Lafreniere, things like that. But yeah, I'll let you guys decide on that, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day, everybody, and peace out.